Welcome back to our day 4 of day 7 of me teaching my cousin how to play chess. Today in our session we discuss very interesting checkmate patterns. So we'll start with the queen and king checkmate pattern. So number 1, for you to know some things you have to know for you to deliver this king and queen checkmate is number 1 steps. You have to use the queen to restrict the king, that is to restrict the enemy king. So in the current board position you have white king on f4, white queen on a4, and then you have the enemy king, that is the black king, on f8. So for you to go ahead and deliver the checkmate, number 1, what you need to do, the steps is use your queen to restrict the king. Number 2, bring your king close, and then deliver the mate. So we're going to do that. We just don't talk, we have to show. So here we said step number 1 is you restrict the king. So we can see the king, the enemy king is on the 8th rank. And we have our queen on a4. You can just restrict this king by playing to d7. If you play d7, this enemy king cannot come anywhere on the 7th rank. It cannot come anywhere on the 7th rank. So that is if you just bring this queen to d7. Again, you can as well decide to play queen to a7. Again, once you do that, the enemy king cannot come out of the 8th rank. So today I'd like us to start with d7. So queen d7. It's black to play. Black can only move their king to g8. So we play g8. And then we said after restricting the enemy king with your queen, you now bring your king close. So we're gonna start moving our king close. So we play king g5. So we move our king to g5. So you're bringing our king close to the enemy king, and then we will be able to deliver the mate. So black king can move, has 2 squares. We have, that is f8 and h8. So let's say black king moves to h8. You now bring your king whichever square you want. You can decide to play f6 or g6 or h6. So you can decide to come anywhere in these 3 squares. So if you play king g6, black has only 1 square, which is a legal move for them. So they can only move to g8. So with g8, cousin, I hope you remember how the queen moves.
Yeah.
Oh, so how does the queen move?
So the queen moves diagonally and also horizontally. Yeah.
And also vertically. So basically it can move on a straight line or diagonally. So when we have this queen here, and we followed the steps, we said step number 1, restrict the enemy king with their queen. Step number 2, we said bring your king close, and then step number 3, you deliver the mate. So we have our queen that is on d7. You can decide to bring this queen here. This is a checkmate. If you play queen g7, it's a checkmate. The black king cannot escape, so it becomes a checkmate. Understood?
Yeah.
So again, when we have our queen that is on d7, you can decide to play queen d8. It's still a mate because we have opposition on the board. In our next class, we'll discuss about oppositions and forks, pins, all that. So we have opposition on the board. You can decide to play here again. That's a checkmate. Our next checkmate pattern is a rook and king checkmate. So the pattern here is rook forces the king to the edge, supported by the own king. Now, one thing about this checkmate, you have to know opposition. how to bring the position into opposition, and then you give a check with the rook. So in our current position on the board, we have an opposition. So I've said if you have opposition on the board, you just bring the rook and give a check. So the king has been cut off again. It has to move. You're reducing the number of ranks that it can operate from. So here we just move our rook to f4. It is a check. This king cannot move to this next to this other king, so it has to move back. It can't move anywhere on this rank because we have our rook on a4. So this rook is on the fourth rank, cutting the king's movement on this rank. So the king has to move backwards. Either that is on e5 or d5 or c5. So let's take the king moves to d5. So white king, again I said this is a rook and king checkmate. You have to maintain opposition. So now bring your king to d3. If black moves to d6, again you can cut the movement by the just use your rook, play that. Yes, just play that. Or again you can decide to just maintain opposition, because now with that you're very sure they can't come anywhere on the fifth rank. If black decides to play d7, again maintain opposition. If they move to d8, just maintain opposition. So now you're very sure they can't come anywhere on these three squares or rank, or the seventh rank. So the black king cannot move anywhere on the seventh rank because there is opposition on the board. So now they have to operate from the eighth rank, and they have only two squares, either the c8 or the e8. So let's say they play c8. When the black king comes to c8, of course they want to try and escape from that rank, and then they want to come to b7 and try to escape. They want to try and escape from the 8th rank and come to the other side. So in this position, you just simply bring your rook to h4. When you play rook h4, this king remains with only one square. That is a legal move. That is the d8. So it can only move to d8. And with your rook, you just deliver a checkmate because you have opposition on the board. So that becomes a checkmate. Any questions on that?
No questions.
But I think we can do one more position on rook and king checkmate so that you understand more. This is another position on the king and rook checkmate pattern. So having this position, it's white to play. White can easily cut the movement of the black's king, and you just play with the rook because we already have opposition. There is opposition on the board, so just move your rook either to d5 or f5. So in the current position, we have opposition, and I said when we have opposition, just bring your rook and give a check. But our position right now doesn't allow us to give a check with our rook. So we look for the possible squares where black or the enemy king can move to. So we have our king on e8. This king can only move to f8 or d8. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
So you just cut the movement from one of those squares, and you bring your rook to either f5 or d5. So I'd like us to start with the rook f5. So rook f5, it means the opponent king remains with only one square, and which is the d8 square. And now when black has played king d8, you realize they're trying to escape from the 8th rank. They want to come to c7, and then they try something and come to this other side. So just cut off that movement and then bring your rook to c5, which means this king can no longer come to c8 or c7, so it has to go back to e8, and we have opposition on the board, so it's one move to checkmate. Just to deliver the checkmate, play rook to c8 to become a mate. Again, in the position here, our initial starting position, we can decide to start with rook
d5.
to d5. Black remains with only one square, which is king to f8. And now you cut off the movement of this king. Don't allow it to come out of the 8th rank. So bring your rook to g5. Black has only the one move remaining. That is king e8. So king e8, and then you have opposition. Just deliver the checkmate. You understand?
Okay. Yeah.
Our next checkmate pattern is rook, and then king. So we have two rooks, king and king on the board. So currently we have white rooks that is on a2 and b1. So a2 and b1. And then we have the white king that is on c1 and black king that is on h3. So in the current position, it's white to play. So rook and rook checkmate should be very easy, because here white just plays rook to b3. Already this king has been cut off from the 2nd rank, so it can't come anywhere on this 2nd rank, so it has to move back. So it has h4 and g4 squares. So let's start with g4. Again, when you played rook b3, now the king was cut from this rank. So you don't have to move this rook now. Bring the other rook. That is play f4. This king cannot, the enemy king cannot come on the 3rd rank because we have this rook. And again, now the other rook has attacked the 4th rank. So it has to move back to 5th rank. Let's say they play f5. They're trying to move close to your rook, so it's okay. And then bring the other rook. So don't move the rook that is attacking the rank that is immediate after the king. So don't move that rook. Play the other rook and bring the other rook to b5, which is a check. The king has to move away. Let's say they move to e6. Again, don't move the rook on b5. It's the rook that is attacking the immediate rank. Move that play a6. King has to move. It has three optional squares. It can move to d7. It can move to e7 and f7. So let's go with king e7. Just bring your other rook, play to b7. It's a check. They have to move back. If they play d8, just give the checkmate. Again, here if they play e8 or f8, just bring the rook that is on f6, and it becomes a checkmate.